Hello, everybody. Welcome again to a Primal Health Coach's Corner. I am Tara Ann, and I'm so happy to be here with Kim VanDolah, who is here to share with us all about her journeys as becoming a health coach and more. We're going to wait. We've got 14 people here so far. Aloha, or I'm here in Honolulu, so I say aloha. Pardon me if I do that. I want to say hi to Mandy and Bill and Annette. I see some familiar names here, William and Trapper and Tom. We'll wait just about a minute or so before we jump right into Kim's story. Aloha, Todd. And what we're going to do today is feel free to write in the chat or in the question box, any questions, and I'll be sure to field them to dear Kim today. So we've got a great crowd joining us. It's such a blessing to be able to join as a community, Primal Health Coaching Institute, and so we can support one another and our journeys to be of service to the world. All right. So, hi, Warren. Hi, Teresa. Tamara, I'm glad you're back. Margaret, welcome back. Luke, we got a great crowd here. And so let's go ahead and get started. Kim, I want to pass it on to you and ask you to just tell us about your journey, what got you here, your journey to Primal, and yeah, tell us all about you.
All right, very good. Well, thank you. I'm honored to be here. So been on, the health journey for a good solid 8 years when my husband introduced the ketogenic diet to us, and I just had an interest after that, discovering why. Why do I feel so good eating this way? It's the opposite of what I've been told, what I've been taught, how I was brought up. And I didn't say this yet, but I am a wife, mom of 6, and I also homeschool my children. So I have a big plate, a lot of buckets. But as I was having kids and learning how to eat better, and especially 4 years ago, I came across the carnivore diet, and that really was a game changer for me. The energy that I received from doing that was really just a 5-day challenge that opened up my eyes that much to how good I could feel. And then my love to learn came in. I'm a teacher to my children and trying to understand the why behind all this. So I dove deeply into, the ancestral part of it, because that's just how it was linked. And through that spark, I guess, for wanting to learn came a desire to help other people. And through that was a desire, and I found health coaching. And then as time went on, I really wrestled around with that, honestly, because I was like, no, I'm doing these things, but God was persistent with me, and it just kept coming up. And so I had the opportunity back in 2022, my sister was hitting kind of a rock bottom moment. Both my sisters have struggled with obesity. And anyways, I said to Michelle, I said, I can help you. I have all this knowledge, because I couldn't stop talking about it. Of course, she knew. And I said, I'd love to help you. And unbelievably, my sister was open to letting her little sister lead her. So she had a beautiful journey over a little over a year to, dropping 130 pounds. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff that happened with her, off of medications. Anyways, it just drove my desire to want to help people all the more. I actually, through my sister too, we got connected with a doctor that is about 45 minutes away from us, and then his wife is a health coach. And so that was beautiful to see this kind of playing out in action. And I connected with his wife, and she mentored me actually into health coaching. I thought maybe I was going to work for them through their boot camp that they had, but that ended up not working out. But I did still go through a health coaching program. I did a different health coaching program from Primal. I was considering both. But the other one was much less expensive and a little bit shorter of a time commitment. And even though I did feel like Primal was probably the way I should go, I decided to go with that one. Obviously this is all new, and I'm like, my husband's like, we're putting money into this. What, this is all just a really big gamble, almost like feeling like. So it was great. The program that I went through taught me so much about myself, about helping others. And I got to trying to blog through that. I set up a website. It was like, I was kind of a self-sufficient person. So I'm like, I'm going to figure it out. And that's what I did. And I was online trying to blog, trying to bring in clients. I was really hesitant with the social media because of my family and that drawing. There was like a bit of a misalignment there happening, as I felt way too drawn to my devices and to the computer. So out of that, kind of like feeling like this isn't working, only getting a client here and there, and nobody but local, really. It was through the communities that I was sharing. I decided to pray about it, and not long after that, I got actually during this, discernment time, prayer time, I also got really clear about who I want to serve. I think that I was, it was during this time I had started Primal too. I said that other health coaching, I decided, hey, I need more than this. So I did decide to go with Primal, and you guys were very gracious to bring me in. And, yeah, so got really clear about the type of person I want to serve. Yeah. And through that and prayer, bringing that to God, it was like, he sent me the right person. He sent me this woman who is part of our homeschool group. She lived on an organic farm homestead, and she was had a great experience with me. And she is a physical therapist for the Amish in that community. Okay. And yeah, she just started sharing. She started sharing her experience, and I slowly started receiving phone calls from Amish people, and what a difference. It was like, it was like, I didn't have to be connected to my phone. I had that weekly call with them, and they may call me here or there. I was sending, the notes and different resources in the snail mail. I honestly, it was like lifted my heart up. Yeah. And the people I was serving too just brought, like, you answered my prayer, Lord. Like, that's exactly the person I prayed for, was somebody who is, receiving of my message. Anyways, it's been beautiful over the past 9 months or so serving the Amish. When I did begin my journey with them, I decided to dive in to that too. I'm an educator, so I'm like, that's just my thing. So I learned about their culture, their values, and so I could better serve them. And through that, I discovered that at the beginning of the Amish Anabaptist movement, way back in history, there were people who lived around the Amish that didn't want to be Amish necessarily, but admired their values of simplicity, obedience, and humility. And oh boy, I connected with that a lot. And they called these people, they called these people the true hearted. And so I've taken that term, and that is the person I want to serve. I want to serve the Amish, and I want to serve true hearted people. Yeah, so that's kind of how I found my niche. One other aspect I guess I could mention too out of this whole experience was basically after the first call with the Amish lady I was helping, the first person, I realized I need a resource. Right. Like, I need a resource that matches my style, and what I could give them, because these phone calls, you can only do so much in, like, for education. And anyways, that sparked the idea of a book. So I've been working on a book since the idea was since, almost a year ago, but I've been at it for 9 months or so. And yeah, I'm just finishing up my rough draft. I'm like on my last chapter to like bring it all together. I'm excited about that. My business is called Simple Ancestral Health Coaching. And my book is called Return to Simple. And it focuses on, there's 3 parts to it. The first part is simple food. The second part is simple life. And the third part is simple presence.
Yeah. Wow. I really appreciate you slowing down and sharing with us, your story of not only like the spark that happened within you to experiment within your family. And I felt touched by the story about how your husband came home with it first. And you're like, okay, let me see what this is all about. And oh, I feel better. And then the courage it took to, provoke your sister. I mean, that can be some touchy ground. And so I felt inspired by that story. I too have a sister, and I've, hey, can I help? Can I help? And she's a big no. So I feel grateful about that story. And then, that it also just reminds me of, what a journey this is, what an individual path. It's an art, if is what I'm coming to understand. It's an art, and it's also a spiritual experience. So I appreciate you sharing your faith-driven approach to like slow down and connect and get clear, and then with that acknowledgement and the gratitude of like who is showing up in front of you, and then what that sparked and how you've been making it your way. It's just quite wonderful, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel very blessed.
Yeah. And will you remind me, what were those 3 words of the true-hearted people that weren't Amish, but were committed to 1, 2, 3? What were those?
Yeah, so I kind of have developed my own, like, aspects of being true-hearted, but it's somebody who's seeking simplicity,
Seeking simplicity, right?
somebody who is a truth seeker,
Yeah.
and somebody who is humble,
Humble.
seeking humility, um, ready to obey when truth comes along.
Mhm.
And then just a high focus on connection to the people in their worlds, to God, to nature, to just an openness, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, I really appreciate that, because if there's anything I've learned along my journey as well, it's like slowing down and listening to the body's feedback, which to me is a higher power. It may be through the flesh, through the physical. And when we tune in, there is so much wisdom inside. And the ancestral ways, the simple ways, I know among our community sometimes like the languaging can be tricky, but I really like how it's like, how you're bringing just the simplicity, returning to simplicity. And especially I feel touched by doing it offline. It's like you took your go at it, and it's like, actually my preference is this, and let me create a resource, let me find ways. How about you sending them in the snail mail? That's awesome. And I saw it looked like Warren had raised his hand. If anybody has a question, feel free. You can put them in the Q&A box or right in the webinar chat. Okay, here we go. We've got one. Okay, yeah, there. Warren's asking if there's a new website to check out. The one connected to your Facebook page doesn't seem to be working. So yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll put Warren, I'll put the link in the chat box for everybody. Right here. And so, wild or true-hearted, it's quite, simple ancestry.
Doesn't get much simpler than, the Amish's lifestyle, is kind of a witness to our world of simplicity. I mean, obviously they're not doing everything perfect. They need a health coach. The modern food is seeped into their world. Yeah. So
I feel so intrigued by that, Kim, because, I've studied that with indigenous cultures too, like in New Zealand and Australia, where like when they introduce like a convenience store, and in comes the like, the white flour and the sugar, and, diseases that hadn't been in those communities, over like one generation are quite common to what we see in like a standard American lifestyle. So I'm curious, like what that's been like for you working with, a community that is, yeah, what's that like in even in that community?
Yeah, it's shocked me, honestly. I guess I had this vision of the Amish because I didn't really know many Amish people before this. So it's all new kind of world for me and getting in to go into their homes and experience their culture. Yeah, such a beautiful thing. But yes, you do see this seeping in. What's really happened to their culture is kind of a bit out of their control due to just the big farming. You know, within the last, 30, 50 years, this community that I am helping has shifted from 90% maybe 30 years ago. Those are numbers these people have said to me, but 90% of the men in the community were home farming, where that's shifted now. The men in this community, there's like there's like 30 different construction businesses, and they are, yeah, they're actually all over the place. We see them putting up big eggs buildings. So, yeah, it's a big shift from, having big family, but dad's not home, taking care of a farm. And so just, it's very sad. So I'm really inspired though. I really feel like the Amish have some sort of answer in our crisis we are in,
Right.
to our land crisis, our soil. I live in Iowa, and we're just, it's cornfield after cornfield after cornfield, soybeans, and then confined pigs. Those are the kind of the two things we're known for. So I have this saying now that this inspiration, for Iowa, this dream, from corn and confined pigs to prairie and pastured animals. And I believe that's, yeah.
That's
I believe
fantastic.
that's the answer, to, I don't know what that looks like. So I don't take that upon myself to figure out, but I trust God has a plan and he'll bring up the right people and whatever part I have to play. But I feel like the Amish have a big role in that because, these big farmers, the kids that are coming up, I don't think there's a big drive to want to farm anymore. So, but you have Amish who Ruth told me, one of the first Amish lady I helped, she goes, Kim, you have no idea how many of these men just want to farm.
They just want to farm.
And they know how to farm in an ancestral way. They know how to care for the land and not, take away from it, as we're doing.
Oh, wow. I feel touched by this. And it's like within the Amish community, you're getting to see it at like a slowed down pace, whereas, this was happening a few generations ago, still is. I mean, tonight I feel excited to go. I'm here in Honolulu and they're doing a showing of, it's called Common Ground. And apparently it's like part 2 of Kiss the Ground, which is all around, regenerative ag and returning to prairie, like you're saying, like what really matters. And soil health is what's going to, really serve our food supply, our, the health of this planet. And so, I feel touched by your shares. And, I want to ask the audience, are there any questions, around, especially with this, like, it's like, oh, Kim has like found her niche. And, I'm inspired by, it's like, you didn't go out looking for like, I'm going to serve the Amish. It was, you're doing some experimenting and casting your net wide, wide meaning courageously. Let me, work with my sister. Let me see who's open to doing this. And like I heard you say earlier, you took a big risk, what is, you put money into it, but there was an internal knowing. And I imagine, with the participants that are here too, it's like, we have some wins and we want to shout it from the mountaintops, let's save the world. And then there's actually a process to slowing down and working with somebody one-on-one or even in groups and such. So, around niche, but then I also just felt a question come forth around like, what's that been like for you working with the Amish, getting them, if some of the standard American foods have like crept in, what's it been like to help them get off of that?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar to just they call us the English. But yeah, some of them are ready to go, deep dive into animal-based eating, and they have amazing results. I do a 12-week program. And yeah, fasting just comes naturally. They already have the fasting as part of their, religion. And so the Amish man 28-year-old Amish man that I helped, he couldn't go. He'd skip a meal and get a massive headache. He'd have a migraine for sure. And just this chronic, sugar burning mode. And getting him out of that, he was able to fast at the end of 12 weeks. He was, doing a 36-hour fast with no headache.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, the results are pretty similar to what we see and hear in our community. It's, I feel like they're a little bit more open to receiving. They trust me, coming from Jane, because I have that, she's a physical therapist. They trust her. So her saying that Kim's, talk to Kim, I have that trust. So, yeah, it's pretty easy to make the case for this, honestly. With the health, disaster we're in, they're having similar, to be able to just bring it back to the simplicity if we're just not eating our proper diet. I have really good luck reaching them, and they're open to what I have to share.
That's great. That's really great news.
Yeah.
And then what's it been like? I mean, I heard you say you have 6 children. How might you handle, the calls and the client load, with 6 children and you're homeschooling them?
Sure. So I do have a big range of children. So my oldest is actually 22.
Wow.
And my youngest is 5. My 22-year-old is out of the house, but on his own. But I have then a 16-year-old daughter, 15-year-old boy, 11-year-old boy, 8-year-old boy, and then my 5-year-old daughter. So we are close. We're a connected family. That is very important for me and my husband, to raise our kids in a different way than what our culture is raising children, in this almost hamster wheel way. So being homeschooling, we aren't running from activity to activity either. We limit that a lot. So that brings a peacefulness in a home. Not that we don't have children that are fighting with each other. I mean, this is normal stuff goes on, but the older children can take the responsibility with the younger children. So I'm just blessed to be in a space that I have very trustworthy older kids that can help me out, and they support me. My family's so supportive of me. Shout out to them, because they'll watch this probably later. I love you guys, and thank you so much for letting me kind of live my dream out, because
Right. Oh no, that's touching. It's really touching. I mean, we do need a support system, especially as we go after a big dream. And this is a big vision.
Yeah. Well, they see with homeschooling, I'm blessed too. I can bring all that I've learned into, my kids' curriculum. So they're learning about how to eat primally, live primally.
And what's that been like?
Oh, it's been so fun.
Okay.
I have a whole story around that. Yeah. We did a whole summer where we did a unit study we called Ancestral Health. And yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Bill Schindler. He has a book, Eat Like a Human. We went through that book together, as an audio book, and we dove into the principles of sourdough. And so it was this whole experimental learning. We also enjoyed watching his show, The Great Human Race, where we could see kind of evolution played out. And, that's another thing you can always get. I'm a Christian, so you got a lot of perspectives in that space too. But I always want to give my children a platter of information and let them use their reason, and to be able to think these things through for themselves and find truth.
That's wonderful. And it's just fantastic that you're like creating, utilizing it as like a unit for the education and giving them a chance to figure it out on their own, as opposed to like, mom says you got to eat this way because I said so. Like it's, what a circle of trust and support and learning together.
And
Yeah,
when we made changes to our lifestyle, it makes more sense to them why we would do that.
right. More understanding. Yeah,
Mm.
Warren loves that show too. He says it's so cool how they show how food came, from ancestrally. And it's really like a return, um, before all the quickness.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
We also read aloud what I read aloud Weston Price's book, Nutrition and Degeneration. It's actually a really good read. It got a little repetitive though. I was
Oh,
getting my kids' take on that because we're learning about, the people up in the Swiss Alps and how, this is back in the 30s when things were just coming into these indigenous populations. And but the place after place that Dr. Price went was like, yeah, they brought in the sugar and flour and everybody's health fell apart.
right.
Yeah.
So then I'm imagining too, like empowering them with, with this education within themselves, then that it makes it easier, like socially, maybe at other kids' parties or birthday events and such, like, because that's what I hear from others,
Yeah.
that I work with, it's like the whole family piece. It's like,
Right.
oh, I'm going to make food for myself, but I've got to make all this other stuff for the rest of the family. And it's like, well, that's not
No,
sustainable, you know.
no, no. So yeah, that's what's been beautiful about, I have a pretty strong animal-based approach to my health coaching, and that's how I eat too. But, my kids can eat sourdough, like that works for their guts. So I'm open to other, ancestral principles of how people prepared food, and helping to teach them that as well. So they'll have these tools in their toolbox as they
Oh, that's
take care.
great.
Mhm.
That's great. And do they enjoy being in the kitchen with you?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So my 16-year-old daughter can do pretty much anything I can do in the kitchen, which is beautiful.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then, so how does it work? So I really like hearing that, it's referral,
Right.
based. And, it's
Right.
one thing, put yourself out there. And I'd like to, talk about this among the other health coaches that are here. It's like how to get ourselves up and running and create a sustainable business practice. And it takes some, some some grace and some grit
Yeah.
to, once, to start getting those referrals in. And do you
Mhm.
have any insights or words of wisdom around, like, did you hear a lot of no's in the beginning, or like what would you say to like a new health coach that's like, I don't know who my niche is?
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I can so connect with that. I'm still a baby myself. I'm honestly just not even 2 years into this and
Okay.
primal just the last 8 months, but and I haven't helped a ton of people. Obviously, I can only help so many people at one time. This is a very part-time thing for me. But what I have found is when I let go of trying to control the situation and trying to just use that self-reliance to figure things out, when I shifted away from that and just trusting and going more with my intuition, I would say that is the best advice I could give somebody is if you're feeling anxious about this, if you're, worry is taking over you, that's that's not the space. That's not the space. So you do have to kind of step back and just it's like, I don't know, when we're doing a puzzle, we're trying to put a piece of a big puzzle together. There's times that it goes really, really smooth, it's working well. And then there's times that it's so frustrating, so frustrating. And what we need to do is just take a pause, step back from the puzzle, and then when we come back later, it's like, oh, that's where that piece goes. And then all these other pieces fit together. And that's the analogy, yeah, I would use because that works for my story of my life and trying to piece that together, how I help clients piece their, puzzles together. We got to have this, I call it a simple presence, but just to be in the moment and reading where our heart is, having the quiet time each day to kind of just sit. And then that inner knowing, that intuition can come up and speak. And yeah, just letting that guide. That would be my advice. I know that's easier said than done, but
I really like it. I love your analogy around the puzzle, and if we're feeling anxious about it, and this may be like for a coach that's like, I've got to pay the bills. I've got to pay the bills. And I like what you said, it's like, this is a part-time piece. And if you need to have a job to pay the bills and grow your coaching on the side so that you're relaxed
yeah,
in this process, that's where the success is. That's where the win, that's where this is a service-based profession. And to put that kind of like weight on ourselves, like it's a journey. It's a long game. And what I hear from you is like, although you say like, oh, I haven't helped a lot of people. I mean, what success though they've had, those that you've been able to work intimately with. I mean, your sister losing 130 pounds, right?
I have to say my sister, I didn't mention the part to her. She's got sugar addiction. So she ended up after a year and a half playing around with that, unfortunately, and spiraled from there. So she's began her carnivore journey back again. She's like 2.5 weeks in or so. So pray for her.
Okay,
She's
absolutely.
in a very good headspace now, but it just, her example and just that witness, this is the truth of the situation we're in. We live in a very messy world where we have temptation everywhere. And
Yeah.
some people can't, they just can't do that. They can't
Yeah.
touch those things. You were
Well,
mentioning about the referral part. Yeah, so that is basically what's happening to me right now is, I'm not doing a ton of, I don't even actually, I just pray about it. Like, Lord, I'm ready for a client. Like it's usually, that seems really, I don't know. It probably doesn't sound realistic, but that is what is on my heart right now. And I'm just really letting him guide my path because he knows who I can handle and how many people I can handle. And the more I trust, the more goodness he brings my way.
and I appreciate your faith-driven approach. And whether the listeners are have a spiritual practice with God, life, the universe, whatever it is, it's like that there's something bigger than us that we're in communion with. And when we slow down and work with life, there's magic. There's the Hawaiian word is mana. There's like life force there. And I very much believe you, because as I've been growing my coaching practice, I get myself out in the world, and I'm not on social media much. I'm enough to like have a presence, but I'm not posting all the time and such. But I too am committed to like building my business offline. And so I'm like out in the world. I go to events, and I don't show up at these events like, I've got to get a client. But I do say, slow down and set the intention before I go in of like, I'm going to have some meaningful connection, and a client is going to come from this, whether that's 6 months from now, 8 months from now, whenever it is, but lining up with that possibility it's valuable. And then I also wanted to circle back to what I was hearing you say about your dear sister. And that's something that was powerful for me in the ACE program for Primal Health. It was the Master's Coach program. Now we're calling it ACE. It's so inclusive of this piece that's so real around relapse. It's one thing for somebody to have a big success, but then what happens when things like settle back down? And so I've really leaned into the Primal Health Coaching community institute and courses that just keep coming. That all access pass is amazing. And because things are changing, what people are handling or dealing with, it requires us to continue our education, to continue bettering ourselves so that we can show up for others. And I have a great question here from Tamra, who said, I would love to know your setup and process with the client, Kim. How often do you meet with them? Is it in person or phone calls or Zoom calls? Do you use certain step-by-step process? Do you use this 12-week Primal Health curriculum? Do you coach as a carnivore approach? Several questions, but go for it.
Yeah. I have a very individualized approach. So, yeah, that was something I wrestled with a long time was, what does this look like? Like, do I walk somebody through just a program? And very quickly, I realized that isn't for me. Yeah, so I just meet the individual where they're at. And my program is a 12-week program. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember all those that was a lot of questions. But basically I'll just talk about what I do with people. I have a focus, we do coaching calls once a week and they're usually about an hour. And we focus on the simple food, living a simple life, and simple presence. And the people I've been working with, the true-hearted people I've been working with recently have already had that whole like relapse, what you're talking about there. And they're just like, oh, I'm just trying again. They've lost a lot of hope within themselves. So honestly, mostly what I'm working with people right now, I just finished with an Amish client. Now I have a couple of true-hearted clients, is the spiritual aspect of this. Yeah, just like I talked about earlier, getting into that simple presence, being aware in the moment, looking at the puzzle of your life and trying to help them to piece that together in a very gentle way, because if we don't address the underlying wounds, the forgiveness that's needed. So this is a big piece to health coaching that I didn't realize was as big of a piece as it is. We can try to help somebody with their food, which is beautiful. And that's sometimes all some people want, and that's fine too. But what I found is I'm drawing in people who are probably like me and my story. I think that happens too. We draw people who are, we can connect with. If we're connected with our intuition, we'll draw in that. So I'm just blessed to get to work with people just in such a beautiful spiritual way. And then to be able to have these tools of, these primal tools, get out barefoot and eat meat. And honestly, I listened to something recently. I think it was some sort of therapy podcast or something. But what we do with a client is 85% relational. Yeah. They just need somebody to just be present to them, to hear their story out. And there's really power in somebody being able to have a place where they're not judged, to speak truth about their life, to face what's going on, and then to have somebody like us that has some tools to be able to help them lean in. Our tools are, more like the 15-20%. It's our presence to that person.
I agree 100%. What kind of a safe container are we creating for them to be able to connect to their own inner wisdom and willingness to experiment with various, programs. And so we have a few more questions. Thank you so much for that. Clyde, who had to go, but I'm gonna make sure that he catches us on the replay. He says he was struggling to build the business while still supporting a family with the old 9 to 5. Do you have any insight to give about keeping the lights on during the early days or ongoing? Which I think this is a little bit what we talked about, but still, do you have any insights you'd like to share?
Yeah. So as far as I understand the question, he's how do I fit this in to what I'm already doing and to be, working on? Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good question. And it's been so critical in my life with all the different, I also have a cleaning business. So that's on top of all this. I'm starting to shift away from that now because my health coaching is, taking over in the book and stuff's coming up. But I have to say that I live by a mantra that I am living a well-ordered life. And to be able to place that order for me, it's God, then it's my husband, then it's my children. And then, I've got my, friends and other family, and then I've got homeschooling, and then I've got health coaching. It's kind of far down on the list. So it's important to have perspective, and for me, and having that order listed out always, makes me check everything. But I have a schedule, making sure I have that quiet time so I can hear the voice of God. And then, just scheduling my time accordingly. And if you take time daily for this, to plug in just a little bit, reaching out to somebody, whatever it is, reaching out to somebody can make all the difference too. I mean, sometimes we're like, oh, I don't know if I should talk to that person. Like that can make all the difference.
Do it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Hopefully that helped.
That was great. That was great. And then Warren was asking, what's the biggest issue your niche, your community, the Amish runs into?
Yeah. So the Amish are basically, it's just the metabolic issues. They are, weight gain, the visceral fat, the inflammation, dental issues. They're just eating a lot of flour and sugar. They now have these discount stores in their communities because, they shifted away from farming, and all the other, Amish and other people in the community come to these discounted stores, which are selling all the processed foods, and it's just filled with them. And the Amish are shopping there too. So anyways, it's all the metabolic stuff we see. And I have to say too, you talk about the inflammation, pain, just every single one I talk to, they just have pain throughout their body. They don't go to a doctor that much, so they don't have like a list of diagnosis to be able to, so my approach is very simple in that aspect too, which I love. Let's just get a waist circumference and a weight at the beginning, and then I don't even touch that until the end. Like this isn't about that. When I'm working with somebody, it's about feeling good, performing. So anybody I'm working with, Amish or True Hearted, is going to be shifted. Like I just don't align with that whole like self-focus, and not that weighing yourself has to be that, but so many people struggle with it, especially women. So I've shifted a lot in that area too, where I'm using simple principles.
Simple principles. And do you have people that show up? I mean, I don't know what it's like in the True Hearted community, but that show up with like, I still weigh myself every day, and how do you handle that?
Yeah. I just encourage them, like that's their choice, of course, but I think I give them permission. Like you don't have to do that. Yeah, I think sometimes we just need permission to step out of that. Is it, and just questions around that. How is it making you feel? Is it helping your journey, or is it hindering your journey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This kind of goes with, we've got an anonymous attendee. Maybe you feel like getting into this, or we can scratch the surface, but how can I fix my eczema and inability to gain weight from being so skinny?
Yeah. So, that I right away, I think of the carnivore diet. That's what comes straight to my mind, just because that's, kind of like the gold standard elimination that you can, try for, is very effective for a carnivore, but I understand, the weight concerns, but really, from what I've learned, carnivore is about optimizing your health. It's not about losing weight or gaining weight. It's about your body's going to just shift into, the weight it's supposed to be. I haven't weighed myself for like, I don't know, 6-9 months. I just, eat a lot of fat and a lot of protein, and a little bit of other stuff. And yeah, I just go off of how I feel. So anyways, that would be my, somebody asked me that, a client asked me that, I would guide them into, animal-based.
Yeah. Nice job. Nice job. And then Tamara's asking, how did you decide how much to charge for your 12-week program? This is a great question.
That is such a good question. That was such a struggle too. Yeah. Yeah. Because when we start this, we're like, I just want to help everybody, and I don't want to charge anything. Like it just doesn't align, I guess, with, I felt a misalignment for a long time until I started helping people. And then I started realizing the value I was adding. And that has been just a slow progression for me. Like slowly, I just keep, charging a little bit more, a little bit more. I have to feel good about it. If I
Yeah.
don't feel good about what I'm charging, it just, yeah. So I can't give you specifics on that. Hopefully Primal guides that a little bit. I think they did in their program. But yeah, that's how I've done it.
Thank you for that. And I'm happy to chime in here too, because, oftentimes, for new health coaches, oh, what's the market rate, this and that. And it's like, throw that out the window. Like, just start coaching, have some, have something, even if it's a low number. And then as you get full, you find your schedule more busy. That's a nice cue, a nice indicator to raise the rates. Just start it, get your reps in as a coach and working with people, and pick a number, any number, and just go with it. Tamara, is that helpful? And I really enjoyed hearing what you were saying earlier around, you set a schedule, that you have a mantra around having a well-ordered life. I love that. And it reminds me of a lot that I do around like setting systems for my day, systems, routine, you can call them routines, schedules, but I like systems. It helps me to not feel really rigid in them. However, it matters. And I also heard you say around like putting a little bit of attention each day, like small steps taken consistently over time create massive results.
Yeah, I can connect with that. So yeah, tradition, ritual, that's also important for us as humans. I think that goes back to the connectedness that we need within my family. That's huge. We have our daily routine, and then we have things we do monthly and things we do yearly, and so important because they know what to expect too then. But yeah, I myself have used the whole staircase form. Like, that is just such a great tool, I think, and so simple. And I use it with my health coaching. Yeah, I work with people on a staircase form over 6 steps, and so each step is 2 weeks long, and we sit in those steps, and if we need to change them, we change them. We write in pencil if we have to. That's a good idea to be ready to shift, because we need to hold our plans, and we need to teach our clients to hold their plans loosely in their hands.
Yeah, it's an
There has to be some wiggle room. Yeah.
And that, poses a question around like this book that you're writing. Like, is that, do you give yourself and, what's that look like? How do you even fit that in? It sounds like you've got quite a full life.
I do. I get this question a lot too, from just, people in general, women in my homeschooling world. Like I said, I think it goes back to our simplicity that we're living. I'm not a TV watcher. I'll catch a show here or there, but I prioritize what's most important, so spending time with God is, number one when I wake up in the morning, and I wake up very early. I've actually taken that from the Amish too. Like, they get up at like 4:30, 4:45, and I get up very early, and I have my time to put, to prayer and quiet time, meditation. And then from that time, I move into writing my book for about an hour. So I honestly have about 2 hours in the morning where, between prayer and writing, it works. I don't know. My kids just get up, do their thing, and it works. There's days that it doesn't work, but for the majority, it does. It does.
And what happens on the days that it doesn't work? Like, what's happening in here?
Yeah. I think that goes back to that simple presence. I honestly have had so much healing within the past couple of years within myself. Healing that has helped me to enter into a let it go and let it God mentality, and just to be able to be present in the present moment. So that awareness, I don't do this perfectly, the awareness to see, okay, this isn't going well. I need to shift. And be able to make that decision from that space. I don't know, the more centered I become, the more time I spend in this simple presence, the easier it is. It's like a flow of grace that is just, it's happening. And I want to say plugged into that source. Like,
Oh, of grace. And I heard earlier you mentioned, like what a practice of forgiveness this is. We think we're coming in to like talk to people about food and diet, and it's really around like connecting to the intuition, the inner wisdom. And oftentimes when people want to look in, it's like, oh, I've got to really look at some stuff that maybe I haven't for so long. And so this avenue
Yeah,
around forgiveness, I find that too in my work. It's up there. It is like the
it is.
premier. It's so
It
important.
is. It's
Mhm.
that spiritual piece. It's yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm so blessed to be able to have open people to, they're so vulnerable. I'm vulnerable with them. That's where growth happens, out of vulnerability. If we really want to change, if we want to grow, it's through vulnerability. And yeah, we do have a lot that we don't realize is there. And the health coach can be someone that can help bring these two things to the surface with our, thought-provoking questions. And just for me, it's education too, in a recognition that our childhood is important. Our young adulthood, even till now, all that things, our story is important. And it's made us who we are. And if we're having these dysfunctional behaviors, behaviors we don't like, there is something going on deeper under the surface. And so whether that's, a need for forgiveness, whether that's just recognizing the wounds in our hearts and being able to let light into that space, to be able to start taking, back those layers, start working through, like, we have the wound, then we have these judgments and beliefs about what happened to us, or what we did, and then we make vows. And then that just leads to self-reliance, and it just leads to the struggles we're having. So yeah, if I was going to further my health coaching journey, like in what area I would want to, would definitely be in the spiritual space.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, like spiritual direction, I guess. If I was going to, it would be some sort of health coach with spiritual direction.
And does that, I mean, it sounds like it's happening already in your
Yeah,
sessions.
it is. And maybe I just need to take in that, like,
Yeah.
that whole, like, I'm good enough. This is me. I think we all sometimes can struggle with that. Well, this isn't a title that I fall into. This isn't a title for me. Oh, I need to get this course first. But you're right. That is something that I've been guided into, whether it's, through people experiences. My own healing journey is huge in helping people. Um, and then, yeah, the books we read just are seeking, that truth seeking.
Yeah.
Yeah, knowledge doesn't have to come from a course, right? It can come from
Right.
our experience and our truth seeking.
Yeah, I love hearing that because, there is an educational component to this. And I liked what you were saying around the stair step approach, how simple, let's keep it simple. And this is what we're going to work on for the next 2 weeks. And we're going to adjust as we need. We'll even write it in pencil so we can change it as needed. And when I hear that philosophy, it's like you're working with the person as opposed to the like all authority. I'm
No.
the health coach. This is what you're going to do. And sometimes people say, "Oh, I just want somebody to hold me accountable." And it's like, no, no, no. It's not our job. Our
Mhm.
job is to be with them along their journey and their willingness, right? And to me, that is a spiritual. This profession is a spiritual profession, in my opinion. We think it's one thing, but really, like
Yeah,
we're supporting people taking the layers off and truly connecting to who they really are.
yeah, amen. Yeah.
Oh, we have
Mm.
just a few more moments. Community, we still have quite a big group here. Primal Health Coaches, um, people that are interested. Do you have any more questions for Kim? This has been such a great power hour.
I feel very honored and blessed to be here. Like, yeah, not what I expected to be doing.
And so
You
what
never
has
know what life's going to bring.
right. Right. But what has it been like? I heard you say that you're back with Primal, and what's that been like?
Yeah, to have gone through Primal's health coaching. Yeah, I have to say that was something that I needed from the first health coaching program I did to Primal. Definitely set me up with more confidence in going forward. Christine Hassler's,
Oh, yeah.
last part of that was huge for me. I really leaned into that and brought that into the clients I was, helping at the time. And that's just grown because I think when we put passion into a certain area and our hearts get, set afire, like we just get more of that sent our way. So I've just been so many resources have come my way in that space of spirituality that matches, with my spirituality. So it's been just awesome.
It reminds me of, like attracts like. And
Yeah.
as I hear you share your story, Kim, it still reminds me, and especially there's so many coaches out there these days. There's so many health coaches, and it's like, that's all right. Like this is a growing profession. Let's create a path for ourselves so we're not anxious about it. That's one of the big takeaways that I'm hearing from this, from you for new coaches, people that are wanting to, get this up off the ground. Like create systems, an order to your life so that there's not an anxiety around it, and you're getting to serve from a place of wholeness and not neediness, and from that place of service and alignment, more is going to just come, and the world life falls in love with what lights our heart up with. So there's no competition, there's plenty for everybody,
Yeah.
and focus on the alignment.
I have to
Oh,
say, I completely agree with that. So yeah, embracing the simplicity. If things aren't simple, like, yeah, it's probably kind of the wrong track that you may be on.
it's too complicated.
If it's getting too complicated, it's time to shift a bit. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah, I
great.
think that coming from that place of wholeness is exactly where it's at. Sometimes we need to just do the inner work ourselves first a little bit, take that shift away, maybe from the coaching a little bit, and just really focusing in on our inner healing, our wounds. And when we are able to overcome those, and oh man, you can help people, so much more, so much deeper level when you really focus on being the best you can be. Yeah.
And Margaret wrote, very nice. Bill is saying, blessings to you, Kim. For me, lots of confirmations to what
Oh,
I
thank
intend
you.
to do as a primal coach.
Oh, thank you. God bless you all. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Kim and Tara Ann. A really nice and informative conversation. Mahalo, Annette. Thank you, Jody. It's been really nice to spend this hour together.
It
And if we
has.
may, like, slow down, take it easy, and focus on what we can control, right?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Mahalo, Todd. All right. Do you have any last words you'd like to share with the group?
Hmm. Yeah, just lean into that simple presence. Just being in the moment you're in, not so much focused on the future or past, but just be present.
Yeah. And if anybody, I love that, just focus on the presence. And if anybody is interested in learning more about, other courses within Primal, please, I'm going to put the link to schedule a call so that you can get all your answers, all your questions answered around how Primal Health continues to support this incredible community. Like it just keeps expanding. We keep bringing in such talent and wisdom. And it's really nice to get to share with you, Kim. It's an honor to be here. And yeah, Kimberly says, thank you, ladies. Lots of great information and exciting times ahead. So blessings to everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you again soon at the Coach's
Okay.
Corner. Bye-bye.
Bye.